Greetings, state data managers and other state representatives or other data representatives. I see that we have Jocelyn Holbert from EMSC joining us today, so it's really nice to have some folks beyond the traditional state data managers participating in our training today. My name is Karen Jacobson. I am with the NEMSIS Technical Assistance Center. Today is Thursday, February 25th. With me today is Kevin White, who is one of our business intelligence developer. He is our lead developer. And today we are presenting information for everyone regarding version 3 submissions from states to NEMSIS. So what we're presenting today is the NEMSIS State Version 3 Data Submission Dashboard. And as usual, what we're doing currently, we're in conversation mode. With conversation mode, that allows free conversation. And I do request that people mute your line so that we don't have any background noise. And what we will do, if we end up having background noise, is we'll mute everyone, and then hopefully that won't happen. We're a much smaller group, so we won't have to do that. What I'm going to do now is turn control over to Kevin White, but we're really glad that everyone is able to join us today. I'm going to hit two things really quick before I do so. Currently, under Reporting Tools, Reports, State Reports, and Kevin will go over this as well, I'm sure, but we currently have a version 3 state dashboard. This dashboard later today is going to be removed and updated with a link to our new data submission dashboard. The one that's currently up here is permission-based, so it's for any state that has submitted data and it had information related to violations on submissions to us. So Kevin has made some updates to this brand spanking new dashboard with a lot more information. We also have a companion manual that will be posted as well, and I will send out notification regarding that via the NEMSIS, the NESMSO Data Managers listserv. And just so you know, we also have a vendor dashboard, and that's also available from Reporting Tools Reports and Vendor Reports. This one will also be updated to reflect the one visualization that is available. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn control over to Kevin, pass my presenter role, and it'll take Kevin just a moment to get up and running.
Hi, everyone. This is Kevin White from the NEMSIS TAC. As Karen mentioned, I'm the lead business intelligence developer over here. And today we're going to be doing an overview on new data submission dashboard that I have developed for version 3. As you know, as some of you may know, we already have one dashboard around this, but we've, as part of our goals for 2016 here at the TAC, we're developing a new series of dashboards for version 3 of the NEMSIS standard. The data submission dashboard is the first one that we're rolling out. The other two are going to be data profile and data quality. And just to give you a brief overview on what the differences are there. Data submission is all about what's going on really with just the submission of your information, whether that be from the EMS data set or the demographic data set. How many times did you submit information? What did we do with that in terms of importing it into the data warehouse? Any issues that were violations that we found with your submission around schematron, or just the overall? Did we accept it? Did we reject it? If we accepted it, why was it clean, or were there schematron violations around that? Data profile, which will be the next one that we roll out, which is currently in development, is more of an inventory of your data. Here's all the information that you submitted and detail on that, such as frequency counts on different elements in the demographic and EMS data set. The final one, data quality, is, well, you've submitted your information. And we're giving some guess as to the overall cleanliness or quality of the information that has been sent to us. And those final two will be rolled out later on this year. So those are kind of an overview of the three main dashboards that we're putting together for version 3. First one, as Karen mentioned, we already have a little bit out there. We took an initial sort of stab at a version 3 dashboard last year, just to get states who are onboarding up and running. And I'll briefly show this to you. I'm logged in as myself right now, so I can see all states' information, but this view is customized, it is secured so that when you authenticate, you only see your state information. So there's no...
Kevin?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was hoping it was just my screen, but I've just heard from Mike Lockard with a chat, and I think Dagan was going to share the same thing. We're seeing a black screen.
You are? Let me see if I can... see what I can do about that. I don't, let me see if I can, there we go. How you doing now?
Unfortunately, still black.
Yep. For a moment, it had said that sharing was paused. There we go. Now we're good.
There we go? Okay.
Yep.
Probably an errant, I apologize for that, probably an errant mouse click on my part. Let's go back here. And let's just go back to the NEMSIS homepage so that we can go back. So to access these reports, we go to Reporting Tools, State Reports, okay? And it's this link right here. And this link will, as Karen mentioned, this link will be updated later on today with a link to the new dashboard that and new manual that accompanies that dashboard. But for right now, let me just click in here and show you. So this is our existing data submission dashboard. It was built late last year just to give states a little bit of information on just that overall idea of what's going on with your submissions and general information on sort of violations around these submissions. And vendors have a view of this as well, and that'll be true for the new one as well. But this is old. This is no longer going to be active. The new improved and dashboard starts to look like this, and it's very different. For one, it's not just a single view. We have 4 views now: a summary view and a detailed view. And each of these detailed views is on what I've characterized as a different topic area for your data submission. And I'm going to see if I expand this screen a little bit, are you still able to kind of nicely see that information, or is it going to get cut off for you? Kind of get as much of that view in there as possible. So the 3 topic areas that we have are submission detail, accepted PCR detail, and EMS agency detail. And this first screen is an overview, just a little bit of information on each of those different topic areas. Submission is all about just submissions without respect to whether or not this is an EMS data set submission or a demographic data set submission. You submitted a file to us. What's your frequency of submission? Generally, what's your rate of acceptance versus rejection? PCRs accepted is information on of your submissions. What did we of your EMS dataset submissions that we accepted and imported into our data warehouse? What's a little bit of information on them? And agencies is all about your demographic submissions. This is our internal view that only myself and Karen have access to, and it allows us to switch between states so that we can see all of your information. Your view looks exactly like this, except you don't have the ability to see other states' information. Before I start looking at the detailed views on each, I want to show you just the little, we have is a little date range submission date range. Is interesting. That's kind of bouncing on me. Let's see if I can get that a little bit nicer for you. What we have is, what we've got this set up for is, by default, it's going to show you activity over the past 30 days. And you can vary that based on different sort of week, month, year, quarter ranging. What you're not able to do is you're not able to, say, for example, see a specific date using this filter. What you would have to do is click on a specific date, for example, in here, and that would show you a specific date if you want to just focus on what's going activity for a particular day. This is just a compromise that we had to make between showing you something that was immediately actionable without any interaction versus your ability to see, to drill down into a specific date. You'll also be able to do things like this if you want a window on a date. We felt it was more important to give you information that was immediately actionable without any interaction. We felt like a 30-day window was, at least for now, probably the best thing. As more states on board and frequency of submission rates get higher, we may shorten that 30 days to maybe prior 7 or prior 5 or prior 10, somewhere along those lines. It all depends on what kind of feedback we get and how quickly information starts coming into us. We just kind of let this click through. I should also mention that this information is currently updated daily. We refresh the data set every morning at 4 a.m. Mountain Time at the NEMSIS TAC. It usually refreshes in about an hour. It takes about an hour to refresh. The dashboard isn't offline during that time. It's just showing old data until suddenly it has brand new data for you. First, let me see if there's any real questions or concerns about what's going on this on the submission summary screen. And I realize we're going to go through this pretty quickly because we only have an hour of time. So, but if anyone sees anything that's immediately confusing to them, please feel free to shout it out. Okay, let's move forward into the first view, which is the submission detail view. And again, this is detailed information, again, on submission without respect to, is this an EMS data set? Is this a demographic data set? We have the same initial information up top that was on the summary view, and then we have some more detailed information down here. First we have is just this grid that shows you really when your submissions are occurring across a week and block of time to help you understand what's going on with when is your data coming into us. We have information on just if your submission was rejected, what was the reason that we stated that your submission was rejected. And if there are any fatal violations associated with that, that would appear here as well. Detail on what constituted a fatal schematron violation for your submission. And again, just as an overview, I could, for example, interact with this and filter just by clicking in, and this view would then update based on that. And as always, I can come up here and change the range as well. Any and I should mention over here we have just the summary information on the submission as well. Number of errors, number of submissions, number of suggestions, number of rejections, and so on. An average number of patient care reports that we're seeing per submission, and number of agencies that we're seeing per submission as well. Any questions, concerns?
Hey, Kevin, this is Kathy Curley.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Hi.
Sure.
On this, are we going to be able to drill down on this, like, to the agency level so that we know who's not sending the correct data so we can go to the vendor and say, hey, you're not doing this right? Or is this just going to be, what we see here? Will we be able to, this is really neat. I like this. But are we going to be able to even drill down further to know who sent it to us and how we can have them fix it?
Yes, we have some ability to do that in the EMS agency detail. So when we get there,
okay, cool.
We'll take a detailed look at that and see if what's on the agency detail provides you the information that you're thinking about.
All right, thanks.
Mhm.
Hello, this is Juan. On this particular page, the 979, does that represent the number of records that failed that particular error?
That's the number of errors that were generated by submissions in the last 30 days. That's not necessarily the number of files that were rejected. That's up here. It's 552. So the error rate is higher than the rejection rate.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I was referring to the error down at the bottom where it says submission rejection.
Mm-hmm.
So those two are going to be the same numbers, but if you... Okay, I get it.
Okay. And there is additional detail on this in the manual as well that we have that goes through in detail each visualization, the data set, the inclusion criteria, and what each visualization is actually displaying and how things are calculated within each visualization. But as always, if there's you see anything that is confusing to you or the information is insufficient, immediately contact us and we'll try to address that as best we can. Any other questions on submission detail? Okay. Let's move forward on to accepted PCR detail, which is the most detailed view out of the four in this new dashboard. There's a ton of information here on patient care reports that we have, again, accepted into the data warehouse, and I think that's a key point. This is only information that on patient care reports were accepted. If the patient care report was rejected or the submission was rejected, then that information is over here on submission detail. If we reject a patient care report, or particularly a submission that contains a patient care report, then we don't have detailed information on that patient care report. We don't know anything more about than what states, who submitted it. We don't know who recorded, what agency recorded it. We don't know what software was used. We just know you, for example, California, not to highlight anyone in particular, you submitted us a record on a patient care EMS data set on this date, and we rejected it, and here's why we rejected it. So, with that said, I'm going to sort of scroll fairly quickly, but not hopefully dizzyingly fast, through this and give you an idea of kind of what's going on, just to give you kind of a idea of size and of this report. And then I'm going to take more time on this one because this one can get pretty detailed and pretty confusing pretty quickly. again, as with the submission detail, we have the first thing we see is a repeat of the information that we saw on the submission summary for patient care reports. This has a lot of summary information over here, the number we've accepted, the number we accepted with schematron violations. So these are schematron warnings. These are not a fatal schematron error. Again, if it was a fatal error, it would appear only over here on the submission detail. How many the number of resubmissions. This is not the number. This is the number of PCR patient care reports that have been submitted to us more than once. This is not the number of times we've received a resubmission. So if you sent a patient care report to us 16 times because it just kept getting updated, it would still only appear in this measure as you've resubmitted that. You've resubmitted that patient care report more than once. Number of violations across all patient care reports. Again, this is warnings, and we've got some detail on that below. Average number of violations per patient care report. So of the reports that we've accepted, what's its average violation rate? Average number of patient care reports per submission. And this lag information right here in hours is just, that is the time in hours between the time the patient care report was submitted to us and the recorded unit back in service date and time, which is the last time over the course of a call that gets recorded and sent to us. So it's not call close. It's that unit back in service time to us. And then, of course, we have this timeline over here that just gives you by day frequency of submission and acceptance, as well as the share between the green is just patient care reports that we've accepted that had no violations, and down here is in the orange is the number of patient care reports that we've accepted that had at least one violation. As on submission detail, we have a grid that shows you, and this is by unit notified, when your patient care report, based on unit notified date, when they're occurring, and the average number of violations that are occurring within that 4-hour time block. And right now we see for all states over the last 30 days, Monday, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. seems to be a pretty high violation. Seems to be the highest, recording the highest number of violations based on unit notified. We have definitely seen variations on this changes quite dramatically based on EMS unit and state, so it's definitely something you'll want to look at. And over here is just a distribution by incident zip code of where average violations are occurring, and where they're high and where they're low. And right now, because I'm logged in myself, this is showing the whole United States. But I wanted to show if within your state you'll be able to drill in and see what's going on within just your specific state, and you'll be able to, for example, the tool within Tableau, you could come in here and say, well, I just want to see that area, and it would update this entire view will update with just that information. It should say that clicking into one of these visualizations, like I just did with this map, only updates the data for all of visualizations in that view. So I am only right now restricting the accepted PCR detail view to the zip codes that I highlighted. That change does not affect submission detail, submission summary, EMS detail view. The only filter that is global across all views is the submission date range. So once I select that, I selected this to be last 7 days, it would affect all views. But anything else that you click in will only affect visualizations on that view. We have
Kevin?
yes.
Can I ask a quick question? Just up there on your average violations per PCR by unit notified, am I, when we when we see these when I look at those rates, is that probably assuming two, or is there a view available that we probably see that's probably when a lot of folks are submitting, and that's why those maybe go up, or I'm just trying to.
Well, it's scaled. This is certainly this is scaled by number. So the numerator here is number of violations. The denominator here is number of PCRs accepted.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's helpful to hear. And is there documentation on some of these, just so that we know what numerators and denominators are when we're showing and discussing that? Okay, so it does go back. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
That's helpful to make sure we're understanding the definitions for each one of these. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And that's true anytime we do, and so average violations per PCR, that's the same thing that's going on here. Within infinite zip code, it's the number of violations divided by the number of PCRs accepted. And that's going to be true all the way down the line. The next visualizations we have are violations by element, average violations by element, so you can see which ones are getting hit the most. By EMS agency, by pattern within Schematron, and because I'm logged in myself, this one's really crowded. I apologize for that, but this is by software company and version. I should say, you can come up here and you'll be able to select, and this is field software vendor. This is not whatever software is operating within your state EMS office that sends the information to us. So this is the software package that generated the patient care report. And I won't select the specific, but go ahead.
Who's got the most, vendor-wise?
Probably just for sake of, diplomacy, I won't do that. But I think you can guess just based on which vendor is servicing. It has the largest market share, right? So you'll be able. But if you have multiple packages, multiple software vendors deployed across agencies within your state, you'll be able to restrict into there. You'll also be able to look at by version number for that software package, and this version drop down will react to whatever software package you pick over here. So if you're to pick image trend, then only image trend version numbers would show up here.
This is Karen. One of the ways that's really valuable is you'll be able to see, especially if you go through and choose each version, you'll see that the violations will probably, increase or drop depending on version. And you may be able to identify as well an agency that may not be upgraded to the latest version of a software for a particular software package. And with that information, then you can reach out to either the software company or the EMS agency to address some of the violations that we're seeing.
Right. So, Karen, you said Nebraska is okay with us showing their data, correct? So if I were to click into I'll just take a moment here to just restrict this information to just Nebraska, and we can demonstrate how that sort of progressive filtering can be really valuable. And these views will take a few seconds to update. This is a lot of information that we're displaying and on screen all at once, and hopefully there's a lot of patient care reports behind the scenes. So just be aware that, so for example, if I click on the largest agency for which we have currently the most number of records from Nebraska, we'll be able to quickly see kind of how that starts to come out. I'm getting a lot of typing chatter. I was wondering if we can kind of hopefully hold off on that, or if possible someone can mute their phone. Who's ever doing that, I'd really appreciate it. Just so we don't get a lot of chatter on this, a lot of backtalk on this recording. So here I've selected just a specific agency within Nebraska. And so now all of the information on this view is now restricted to just that agency. Okay? So this is just that agency's information for the last 30 days.
By violations. We'll stress, too, that it's by violations.
By violations, yep. So we can start to see, I guess they're using Zoli PCR version 1. We can start to see where their violations are occurring, across what elements, when they're occurring in terms of high volume. And we haven't gotten to this yet, but this is detail on the scheme turn warnings itself. So what warnings are being triggered and the average rate at which they're being triggered. So this helps you now. So if you have a specific agency that's really generating a lot of information, you now have an enormous detail on what's actually going on with that specific agency. What patterns are being violated, what software package they're using, if they had deployed over the course of a period of time multiple versions of a particular software package, that would show up here as well. So you would see, well, okay, they had a problem, for example, with maybe 1.0 was generating a lot of problems, but 1.1 is rate is really low. That would show up here, and maybe it was just less an issue of training or of knowledge within the agency, and more an issue of there was something wrong with version 1 of that software package that got fixed in version 1.1 or 1.2, and you're able to see that, and maybe that's a little bit less concern for you. But you're also able to see, okay, what messages are being kicked out by Schematron that hopefully gives you, again, more information on what's exactly going on that's generating these violations. Kathy, we haven't gotten to the EMS agency detail, but I was thinking maybe this also provides you with perhaps some of the information that you were looking for.
Yep, it does.
Okay, yeah, great, outstanding. I should also say that your field software vendors, which are listed here, they also have a version of this view and this view only that is restricted to patient care reports generated by their software. So vendors that are submitting version 3 data to us have access to a view that looks exactly like this. They will have the ability to look within a state, but it's restricted only to patient care reports that are generated by their software. So if you're seeing something really funky in here and you think maybe the vendor needs to know about it, you can call them up and say, hey, go to your view of this information, we'll click on the following things, and you should be able to see the same information that I'm seeing. And let's talk about maybe why that's occurring.
And in the view that Kevin is displaying, you'll notice that the PCR accepted with and without Schematron violations, there's mostly green in this view for all software packages and all agencies. So we're seeing very little orange, which is a really nice indicator. We have seen since the first states that submitted to us, where we provided access to the vendors with regards to this, we have seen an improvement in the violations warnings that have been triggered. So it's been really good.
Yeah, and actually, if I bring this back out to all, we'll kind of see that as well. And I don't want to. I could say go back to 30 years of data, which of course you don't have, and I think that might show kind of a general sort of trend toward fewer violations as well, which is great to see. What we're generally seeing is, as agencies and state on board, right, when we have a flood of data, usually for older records, if a state's been collecting version 3 data for a while and just hasn't been able to submit it. But we'll also see, as understandably, a fairly high violation rate initially as agencies get used to the new standard, and that's perfectly understandable. But this view again gives you a lot of power to be able to identify right off the bat which agencies are really struggling, and so that you can go to them early on and see, okay, we think this agency seems to be doing really well, but this agency seems to be having a lot of trouble, and we need to maybe take some steps to address that before things get out of hand. I realize this is a lot of information, but any additional questions?
Hey, Kevin, it's
before
Josh.
I move on? Yeah, Josh.
When we look at average violations per PCR accepted, and then I'm looking also at the graph and seeing the number of PCRs that had no errors versus the ones that had errors. So I'm wondering, the average violations per PCR accepted, is the denominator all of the accepted PCRs, or is the denominator the PCRs that had errors, that had violations that were accepted?
It is. This is of the this one right here. Is that what you're talking about? Okay, that is actually the numerator here is number of violations. The denominator here is PCRs with at least one violation.
Okay, that's what I was
thinking. So if we take this down, and it's definitely a tough one to find a really good label for. But thank you for that. That's a really good point. Is that this is of the PCRs with at least one violation. This is your average number of violations within those.
Okay. Yeah. So if you were to throw in all the PCRs, all the green ones, the ones that were accepted with no violations, that average would of course be a lower number.
Yeah, I think it's actually less than one.
Okay.
If anyone has a better idea of how to label that, man, I'd sure love to hear it, other than writing a gigantic paragraph right down the middle here. It's been tough.
Is the submission lag to NEMSIS or to
yes
the state system?
It is to NEMSIS, so it is the difference between it's nice and low, isn't it?
Switch it back to Nebraska, Kevin.
Yeah, that's what I say. And you'll see. So this is what we see when the state onboards initially. We see a flood of older data, and the submission lag is really, really high because it's the difference between time submitted to us and the recorded unit back-end service time. So if you've been collecting data for 4 months under version 3 and today you start submitting data to us, then your submission lag is going to be really high. But after a while, that submission lag is going to go way down. And Nebraska their submission lag is less. It's really tiny. I think it's only now into just a few minutes between the time they receive a record at the state level and the time we unit back in service to the time we receive that. So we're getting.
But it's from the time the incident actually happened.
It's from the unit back in service time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we talk about third-party submissions, so let's speak Zoll. What we're seeing here is that somebody using Zoll in the field closes their record, and if we even look at submission lag 75%.1, if I'm doing my math right, that's 6 minutes. So, so what that means is Zoll closed a record, sent it to the state. The Nebraska state system passed it on to us, all within 6 minutes. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That makes a whole number of things that people have been wishing and wanting from the NEMSIS TAC possible. That puts you in the realm of pretty close to surveillance, right? On a whole bunch of different things. That's just really, really neat. And it also means that you as a state data manager, you can catch issues and address them.
How do we interpret that? How do we interpret the one that says submission lag here, 48.5? Is that 48.5 hours?
Yes.
And what does the 75% part mean?
So these are percentiles. So this is, for example, this is the median. This is percentiles. So this is 20. This is 25% of the records where had a submission lag of 0.2, 50% of a submission lag of 43, 75% have a submission lag of at least at most 48.5. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a ton of new detail that we've never generated for version 2 or version 3. So there's just a huge amount of information here, and it's going to take, I think, a lot of time for not only certainly for even for us to get comfortable with this information, for you at your state offices to get comfortable with this information. Any additional questions or concerns? This is our most detailed view, and so there's just a ton of information here on patient care reports. Okay. With that said, I'm going to go on to just our last detail.
Actually,
yes.
Quick question.
Sure.
Will states have any where we can't drill down? I'm assuming we're only going to see our state level data, but is there any kind of login that allows you to see the national system? The reason I bring this up is here in Oregon, we're doing a lot of very shortly. We've already done one major presentation. We're going to be doing many other presentations very soon. And this kind of conversation of when we show this to folks of what's going on there in the field, both agencies and policymakers, and this kind of information is very valuable in us selling this and getting more folks on board. I'm assuming right now this is only set up, though, for this kind of detail at the state level. So we're going to be working within what the state right now is submitting, correct? There's no kind of, or do you have any presentations that show kind of the national level that you're going through here?
You are correct. This information is currently only available at the state. It's restricted to your information at the state level, and then of course vendors have access to information that they've generated. There is no national view of this. We've certainly talked about it internally, so your request for that type of information is definitely helpful for us to hear. Obviously, some of this information just absolutely cannot be displayed at all at a national level. Like I could not have this map.
Yeah, I totally understand. And maybe what might be potentially helpful is if there are some approved PowerPoint slides or graphical visuals showing the national level that we can also show in conjunction with the state that keeps everything locked down like it should be for privacy, confidentiality, and state stuff, but at the same time show folks a national perspective. That would be something that'd be kind of nice. And just something even static, like a screenshot, that would be.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can take offline and talk more about.
Yeah.
Because we definitely wondered about the value. Like, we know that there's value of seeing some of this information at a national level. It's just a matter of what information is appropriate at a national level, and making sure that we're providing the right info at the national level without violating any of our data use agreements, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That's really helpful to hear.
We'll talk. Yeah, definitely take that offline. I think it does help. People are competitive by nature, or agencies, and they can see a broader perspective. And hey, let's get on board and be a part of this. I think that is, again, another carrot to provide for folks for participation both at the local and state level. So anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
We'll take that later. Thanks for the listening.
Absolutely, always. All right. Move forward onto the EMS agency detail, which is probably kind of an anti-climax after the amount of detail that's on the accepted PCR, but that's just because we don't have as much. The demographic data set just isn't as deep and broad as the EMS data set. But we hope still that this information is really valuable to you, because we've never really provided any information on EMS, focus on the EMS agencies in any of our reports from version 2, or even in current information for version 3. So this is kind of our first stab at what do you want to know about the demographic data submission for version 3. And again, we have our summary information up here, which shows you, agencies within the last, how many agencies did we accept at least one patient care report from? How many demographic files, demographic data set files did we accept within the last 30 days? How many did we reject? How many resubmissions? And this is individual resubmissions. So this is of the active agencies, how many resubmissions did we have? So we got 195 across all states within the last 30 days of demographic data sets being updated. This is just a timeline of activity. This is the number of EMS agencies for which we've accepted one patient care report, and this is submission date down here, and just a number of agencies for which we've accepted at least unique agencies for which we've accepted at least one patient care report on that day. Okay. Here is just a list of the agencies and the number of patient care reports that we've accepted from that agency over the last 30 days. This is demographic information. So what agencies have we accepted demographic information for, and how many times? So this gives you an idea of the distribution of resubmissions. That 195 here. So, I don't know where agency 2412 is, but we've accepted updates to their demographic information 27 times. So that first submission is you've sent us the demographic information for this agency. Every other submission is you're updating it. So here's an agency for which they've been updated 68 times in the last 30 days, and so on. And down here is just, where are those demographic submissions occurring? This is just number of agencies and where we've accepted a demographic file from. So this is not resubmission. This is just the number of unique agencies that we have accepted demographic data from. So if we were to, Nebraska, not surprisingly, because they've been on board for a while, we haven't really had much in the way of demographic information from them. But if we will push this out, because I wanted to show you something, which is this is not submitting state. home state. So the state that the agency claims is their home state, which is an element of the EMS demographic data set. So this gives you an idea. So we're looking at Nebraska has submitted this information. So we know the submitting state is Nebraska, but they've got a few agencies that they're submitting for which these agencies are claiming that their home state is not Nebraska. So that helps you as a state data manager. You're in, is this correct? Is this incorrect information? For example, if we click over here, we can now figure out, okay, which agencies that I, Nebraska, am submitting for are claiming that they're not in Nebraska. And that shows that to me right there. So is that correct? Is that incorrect? What's the agency that's Colorado? Okay. Is that in fact a Colorado agency or is it not? Now I can determine whether or not maybe they need to change. Maybe the demographic data for that agency needs to be updated with the correct home state or not. 30 days. There we go. Take this back at all. Okay.
And you guys, that might be an error, and I say that because the manual that goes along with this indicates that it's coming from element dagency.04, and that is EMS agency state, and the definition for it is the state territory which assigned the EMS agency number. So if a state has indicated, again, we saw Iowa for Nebraska, and so if the ID, the agency ID that's displayed, is actually assigned, because they're for agencies that have are licensed in two states, what they might actually have is one agency ID for Iowa and one agency ID for Nebraska. And so if that's the case, then it's a question of maybe that information is incorrect. So, we'd be able to work with the state to review that. Or obviously with the report, you can do it on your own.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions or confusion or concerns about this view? As I said, this is information that we've never displayed before switch that back actually for version 2 or for version 3. So this is definitely Josh, of the views, this is the one that we struggled with the most. Go ahead, Josh.
Are there plans to also show summaries of schematron violations on demographic submissions?
That's over in submission detail. Because if there's a violation, my understanding is if there's a schematron violation on a demographic file, it just gets rejected.
Oh, that everything in demographic schematron is errors, fatals rather than warnings.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so the issue is that we don't necessarily know. Well, we know we rejected this file, but we're not sure. But we don't necessarily know, was it a demographic file? Was it a patient care report file? And we can look into that and see if maybe what we need to do is break it out here and see if we can do that. Say, well, this is.
But we do see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we would see errors there.
We do have it here in submission type over here. Like here's a demographic violation. And if we look at, I think all states like over the last 30 months. Let me show you more detail on that. There we go. So here might be the detail that you're looking for, Josh.
Well, that
So
would be like
here's,
because of a fatal level schematron rule violation, and then to know what rules, what were the fatal violations.
Well, they're there. We haven't had that. You know, I mean,
Okay,
you see it, but we haven't had that many.
yeah, of demographic files rejected because of a schematron issue. Mostly what we're seeing is, you know, a demographic file because of an XML issue. But we are tracking that.
Okay.
But it's just over here on submissions, not on agency detail. And that's been kind of a judgment call on our part as to, well, you know, where does information like that most naturally reside? And we've tried to, you know, bucket that as much as possible across these topic areas.
Okay.
So we got, which according to the call time, we got roughly about 2 or 3 minutes left. Are there any other questions, concerns that people have, or ideas about additional information they would like to see with the submission view?
You know what, I will just mention, I'm just browsing through the schematron files for demographics, and as you start receiving 3.4.0 data from agencies, there are some schematron warnings in the 3.4.0 schematron file. So you could start to see some demographics where you accept the demographics but have warning.
Well, we will keep an eye out for that. We definitely don't want to miss those and not report them. Anything else?
I'm just going to reiterate for everybody that if we'll get this out, send the link. We just had to do some embedding in our website before we get everything posted. But what's interesting to me in the heat map, will you show both the heat maps again, Kevin? So in the submission detail and the accepted PCR detail, one is focused. So this is submission detail. So over the time frame that one's looking at, all the dates have been assigned a day of week, and then the day is split into four 6-hour blocks. And so that's when the data were submitted. So that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with when the record was submitted, which you do see, or the unit notified date, which is what you see on the accepted PCR. This is interesting, and I know Nebraska found it quite interesting. We worked with a couple of states, November and December with the development of this dashboard that with the states currently submitting at that time. And they're able to drill in and look at some, zip codes and identify time of day and maybe a response area to potentially look at the agency that was submitting the data and when we saw in higher violations, which is what we see in the accepted PCR detail. So once you're submitting, because of those of you who are on the call with us today, I think 3 of you, no, not even. Let's see. We have 2 states submitting. For those of you who have joined us today. So we look forward to hearing from the states that are submitting as you have access to this report to look at the level of detail. And then obviously we are excited to learn what everybody else is doing with their rollout for version 3. And then, we want to work with everyone to enter into data sharing agreements so we can start receiving your data and you can have access to this report. So we look forward to further conversations with all of you.
Thank you. And I just want to just say a couple things that I wanted to reiterate. One, that the frequency of update of this view is daily, early in the morning, as far as the NEMSIS TAC is concerned. So roughly about 5 a.m. or so Mountain Time is when new data will appear in these views. and just that, again, your vendor, your field software vendors also have access to this view, the accepted PCR detail, and only this view. And it contains information only on patient care reports that were generated by their software. That's it for me.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if Dagan from Oregon logs in today, is this what you demonstrated is what he'll see, or are you pushing out an update?
We're pushing out, we're just linking to this later, off our website later on today. So depending on
the website
when he logs in, he might see the old view, and then 5 minutes later he might see the new view, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. But this is all definitely going to be available from the NEMSIS.org website today. I can show you again.
I removed it.
State reports.
I've already removed it. You'll notice it says new February. I've removed it, so I just have to put the new link in and the new manual in.
Okay. Okay. But it'll be right here. There we go. All right.
So I know he was going to go in there and be surprised. So.
Yeah, really. Karen, I'll turn presenter role back over to you. And for anything else.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. If you have any questions, please reach out to either Kevin or me. As you probably know, our information is available on the Contact Info tab of the NEMSIS website. So Kevin and Laurel, who are our business intelligence team, are listed down here. So feel free to reach out to either of them or me or Clay with questions you might have. And as far as moving forward with trying to do something on a national level, I think, having some conversation about this would be really important to maybe even schedule on a DMC call or potentially at the NESEMSO spring meeting or future meetings. But we thank you so much for joining us today.